In this video, you are going to learn how to overcome call reluctance in sales. We all have it, but how do we go about overcoming this? You're going to learn in today's lesson. Hey there, my name's Michael Montgomery with Rev Real Estate School, where we help agents go from 0 to 50 transactions per year using systems, marketing, and sales skills, so you never have to worry about where your next deal is coming from. Today we are talking about call reluctance in sales. How do we overcome this? Well, first off, I have call reluctance. I had this like you would not believe when I started in real estate. It took years to overcome. And in fact, a lot of people that are in sales roles tend to be people that are interested in other people. This doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be extroverted. They can be extroverted, they can be introverted. However, they have an interest in other people. So what does this mean and what does this matter to call reluctance? Well, call reluctance is grounded in a fear of rejection. And those of us who find people very interesting tend to also be more impacted by rejection. We tend to get up in our own heads quite a bit when we are talking to other people and when we're thinking about rejection. So in sales, we need to be able to get over this, and there is a structured way to do so. First off, we want to understand how to do it. The first thing you need to do is understand what we call obstacle immunity. So this term really relates to how what we do becomes easier with time. So it is biological for us to have the fear of rejection. However, the other thing that's biological is that we are adaptable. The things that we don't like to do actually become easier the more that we do them. So this directly relates to call reluctance. The more calls we make, the easier it becomes. Yes, I think we all understand that, but how does that actually make it easier in the moment? Well, what I recommend is thinking about your future self. So when we think about life, when we think about pain in life, we have the choice. We need to experience pain in some way, shape, or form, but we get to choose what that is. So what do I mean by this? Well, you can either have the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. So the pain of discipline means doing the more challenging thing now in order to have the result down the road. You are basically saying no thank you to instant gratification, and you are saying yes please to your future self. Now this is not easy to do because the other alternative is we can choose the pain of regret. And the pain of regret feels great in the moment. We don't have to make that phone call. However, years down the road, we will look back with regret. Therefore, we can choose between the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. You make that choice. However, we all know that choosing the pain of discipline would be the way to go. So one way that I put this and I frame this is I look at what is this going to impact me a year from now? 1 year from now, if I was to make a call and it was to go poorly, how would that impact me? Well, it's not that big a deal. It's not going to be that big a deal in a week, let alone a year. However, if I don't make the call, which then doesn't lead to a referral, which doesn't lead to another referral, that can impact my income. So therefore, what matters is how I'm going to be optimizing for the long term. Getting over call reluctance means optimizing for the long term. This leads to the next point, which is understanding your numbers, understanding the math of real estate or of sales. So in sales, there tends to be a certain number of conversations that you will have will lead to a certain outcome. So X, if you do X a certain amount of times, it will lead to Y. So what is that in sales and in real estate? Well, in real estate, we tend to break things into 3 different buckets. Either your sales skills are emerging, so you're new to sales, you're still understanding how to speak to clients. You are proficient, so you can have these conversations, but you still have quite a bit of improvement to do. Or you are an authority. And if you're an authority, that means that you are very strong on the phone. You're very strong when you're having customer conversations. So how many calls does it take, or how many conversations does it take in order to lead to a deal in real estate? Well, if you are emerging, we tend to see it's about 75 calls or 75 conversations. The reason why I'm using those terms interchangeably is because this could be a conversation in person, this could be a conversation over the phone, or it can be a conversation another way. However, we have to have those 75 conversations to reach a deal. Same goes for proficient, although it's 50 conversations. And when you're an authority, it's more like 30 conversations. So here is the math. If you are emerging and you make one phone call and that is a no, that is actually still a win because now you're down to 74 calls before you get to your next transactions. So the person that actually gets more no's will also get more yeses just because they are taking more swings at bat. So we have to understand the math of it. Now, if you want a tool that does these calculations for you, you put in your average sale price, you put in your commission rates, and then from there, it's going to spit out how many calls you have to make to hit a certain goal. I will link that up in the description below. Head there. You can use this tool in order to figure out exactly how many calls you have to make in order to reach your goal. Next, let's get to some actionable tips. So first off, when we're thinking of prospecting and we're making calls, we have this call reluctance. We think, oh my goodness, we have to make this call. Well, a lot of times we don't necessarily have to make that call that day. So what do I mean by this? How about structuring your day in what we call call sprints, or structuring your week in call sprints? How does this work? What we do is instead of thinking that every single day I have to make X number of calls, this can be overwhelming and this can actually be quite troublesome for us. Instead, you block off 2 days a week. Let's call it Tuesday and Thursday afternoon. So for 4 hours on each of those days. Those are call sprint days, or those are prospecting sprint days. During that period of time, you do nothing but make calls and prospect. I find this works so much better because the next day you wake up and you're working more on business related tasks. And then the next day you wake up with that understanding that today is going to be a call day. Sometimes it can take 2 or 3 calls to get into the swing of things, and we don't want to ruin that. So keep the momentum going. And instead of focusing on having 1-hour call blocks every single day, focus on having larger call sprints a couple times a week. So the next tip is what we call low-hanging fruit. So now, when you are understanding that you're going to be getting over your call reluctance, we want to make those easy calls first. So what are these? Well, if you are calling another agent asking for information, if you were thinking about calling or texting, make the choice to call. If you're thinking about emailing a business versus calling, call the business. If you're thinking of calling or texting one of your close friends, choose to call. So you're choosing to call over text and over email. And this is what the low-hanging fruit, the easy calls. Make those, and then eventually the client calls will become easier as well. Next, what do we say on the phone? So this tends to be one of the biggest blockers for people, is they understand the concept of, yes, making the call will impact my business down the road. I get it. However, what do I say? So it's actually a lot easier than we make it out to be. The framework I recommend is FORD. So FORD is basically an acronym for family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. What are each of these items? Well, these are things that other people care about. So family, with F. What do we do when we're making a call about that? Well, maybe we see on social media that they had a new child, somebody got married, something related to family. That's an opportunity to reach out. Now, I may not reach out right at that point. I can. However, what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to write that down. And then when I reach my call sprint, my prospecting sprint, I'm going to make the call at that point in time. Next is occupation. So this is their job. Have you seen something with the industry news that relates to them? Did they get a promotion? Did you see a promotion on LinkedIn? Did they change jobs? These are fantastic opportunities to reach out over the phone. These are opportunities where you're congratulating somebody. They're actually quite easy calls to make. It's low-hanging fruit again. So with that, I would make a note of that, and then from there, I would reach out during one of my prospecting sprints. The next one is recreation. And this one I find to be very useful in real estate because as we're working with people, we start to understand what they like, what they don't like. We get to know their hobbies. So with recreation, I'm reaching out if there's something that I've found that relates to something they're interested in. Maybe they're interested in craft beer. Maybe they're interested in yoga, whatever that might be. If I come across an article or something that's of interest to them or that could be of interest to them, make a note of it during my call sprint. The other thing with recreation, as it relates to real estate, is that a lot of times in real estate, this is considered recreational to them. For instance, what's happening in their community? Is there a new development that was just approved? Is there a new restaurant, a new coffee shop? These are opportunities to reach out. Was there a sale on their street? Did you drive by their home and you see a sale down the road? They probably want to know what that sold for. I consider this to be part of recreation as well, because people are just interested in what's happening in their community. Finally, we have dreams. So dreams can be projects they're working on. Maybe they're working on a side hustle. Maybe they're working on something else. Or maybe they have travel plans. Maybe they got back from a trip and you saw this on social media. Great opportunity to reach out. So always think of Ford. Family, occupation, recreation, dreams. These are great opportunities to reach out. Now, what you may notice is of those items, I didn't say anything related to calling people and asking them for business. This is a component of making calls, is asking for referrals. In the description below, we'll link up a guide for you to ask for referrals. This is important. However, when you're getting over call reluctance, as you're starting to grow with your sales career, is start with Ford. Start with Ford. You're noticing all I'm doing is I'm calling because I'm interested. I'm truly seeing something of interest, and I am calling and making a point to reach out to them. So don't put so much pressure on yourself in order to have the perfect line or the perfect script. Just call and be truly interested in them, and then use the Ford framework in order to know what to say. Thank you very much for watching this lesson. If you'd like more information, feel free to hit the subscribe and the bell button if you'd like to be notified. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next lesson.